meeting. Sorry about that slight delay. Just trying to make sure that A, we're clear in what we're voting on here, and B, in terms of the process under standing orders. So what will happen now is that Barry will just reinforce the clarity of the implications, and then the amendment's been moved and seconded, so then we'll just go to debate and a vote on the amendment. If it wins, then it will replace D. If it doesn't, it won't. Okay, so Barry, could you just clarify just on that important point of contingency?
Thank you, Chair, and also thank you, Councillor Ferry. The issue here, or the key point here, is that while the request for funding from central government for the project is taking place, the project continues and continues to be funded. Construction of that carries on. This request is not contingent on, or the construction that's currently underway is not contingent on this being agreed to by the government.
All right, Councillor Ferry, do you want to speak to your amendment?
Thank you, and thank you for assistance with the wordsmithing there and the time to get that right. I do want to be clear that I do actually support the completion of the Eastern Busway stages 2 and 3. I like the idea that we recreate the success of the Northern Expressway in as many parts of our city as we can. What I'm uncomfortable with is the fact that we have a situation here where central government is effectively telling us what we will and won't prioritise in our own city, when we've already gone through extensive processes with our community over many years, and now we're being told we have less funding and that we have to spend it on a specific project that that central government prefer, which happens to align with some people's electorate boundaries, and I find that an unfortunate coincidence. This is a chance for us, and I would urge my colleagues to support this amendment. It maintains support for the project. It clarifies the issue about electric trains and stabling. But it potentially gives us a chance to say back to government, actually, Auckland Council, Auckland's residents decide our own destiny in regard to these matters. And if this is a project that is so important to you that you will cut our RFT funding for a wide range of projects that we need across the city, but maintain this and effectively drain our chances of spending what little remaining we have on projects of a priority to us. If it's that important to you, then you should pay for it. And this seeks to advocate that point to them and give them a chance to put their money where their mouth is and say, yep, it is that important, we will fully fund it. I would love my colleagues to support this because it is part of an ongoing negotiation and conversation with the government where, as has been indicated, we have the draft GPS conversation happening, we have possible city deal conversations happening, and we need to stand up for our city and for our priorities and for support from central government where we have determined our priorities, not where they have. Thank you.
Okay, any other speakers? Councillor Hills.
Thank you, Chair, and I'll speak now and I won't speak to the substantive. Just want to endorse and support this. Overall, this has been a frustrating and disappointing experience that a government can just essentially make us either remove $1.2 billion worth of projects or suddenly magically get the funding for that with assuming there'll be no implication for Aucklanders. That is incorrect. This is far-reaching. There are dramatic implications for Aucklanders. There are dramatic delays or cancellations of important projects. Hearing that we could have electric ferries turn up that we will be owning and not have the charging infrastructure is pretty silly, and we have had MPs on who work and represent areas with ferries wanting these new infrastructure to happen. And we have people advocating to us all the time for many of these projects. There are housing infrastructure projects in these lists that have to happen for the growth that the last government wants and the new government wants and we want to support new housing and to make sure people aren't cut off from infrastructure. The fact is this we do support the Eastern Busway. I remember we fought hard to get government, the last Minister Wood, to support an extra 200 million to government funding to go towards the Eastern Busway as that project increased in cost, and we secured that, and that was great. This project does need to continue, but the fact is the on-flow effect of being told we can only fund this and not have the 1.2 plus all that borrowing capacity means that we have very little choice on some of the projects going forward. This has been a disappointing way. I think the Mayor has been very clear about that. If the government was genuine about city deals and working with Auckland, they would have sat down with us and worked out a way, or at least a pause on the cancellation of the RFT until there was other types of funding that could replace it at the same time. So I am disappointed that the effect of Aucklanders and the people stuck in traffic and people wanting good public transport, walking and cycling, ferries, everything else is affected by these decisions. In 2017, we had an ATAP with a $5.9 billion hole. It was $25.9 billion and we only had 20. And at the time, the Minister said, before the change of government, it will be up to councils and government to find that funding. The new government came in and gave us an option that gave us another $4.2 billion worth of projects by enabling us to have this RFT. Yes, it is going to be great for Aucklanders to have individually that reduction in cost on their petrol, but we know that the actual dramatic effect to our budgets and actually extending some of these projects, which will no doubt go up in cost and cost us more in the end, is significant. So of course I'll be supporting this and hoping the government helps us by giving us some more funding for these important projects. Thank you.
Councillor Henderson.
Thank you. Just really briefly, I just completely endorse what Councillor Ferry and Councillor Hills have said, and I would urge my colleagues to vote this amendment through. Yeah, let's be clear, this amendment isn't opposing the Eastern Busway at all. I actually remember the applause in this room last term when the previous council worked so hard to deliver on the Eastern Busway. And I thank all of my colleagues that served in that council that worked so hard on this issue. This is the fruits of it now. So I'm a huge fan of it. We all are huge fans of it. But this is a situation where regional fuel tax money has been pulled, huge gap in the public purse without much warning at all, save for an election, I suppose, with no chance of a replacement at all. And also, furthermore, we're being told what to do with what we have left. Goodness, we're moving way too fast here. You know, finally, we haven't even had a chance as a group of councillors to have a yarn about the implications of all of this until today. That's pretty chilling. We're not here to sit around and wait for central government to tell us what to do. The communities tell us what to do. They're the ones that elected us. They're the ones that tell us their priorities, and it is our job to enact them. We're here, and the Mayor says, to fix Auckland, right? So I'm sitting here, and this has been quite a frustrating day for me, because I'm sitting here feeling pretty disempowered, feeling like maybe I should pack my lunch up and go home, right? Because a lot of the decisions are being made for us. And when local democracy is disempowered like this, communities are further removed from the decisions that affect them. We need to bring communities back to the heart of their decision making, and that is the job for this council, and that is what this amendment seeks to do. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Newman.
Yeah, look, Chair, I can't vote for this amendment. I've seen before what happens when government takes a project out of this hypothecated regional fuel tax and commits to doing it themselves differently. And it's called Project 11 Mill Road, which was identified and agreed as a regional fuel tax deliverable. And then government put that in the what's called NZ Up and then dumped it. And I can tell you what the community thinks about that. Very, very strong resistance to Mill Road being dumped. I think that I can absolutely understand that people are unhappy about the changing landscape of politics and parliament. But I think the advice from the staff is that this is not the project to step back from. And I think that the recommendations that were put up previously by the by Councillor Fletcher, which were discussed with officers, I think were wise. Endorse the completion of stages 2 and 3 for the Eastern Busway, concurrent to the electric trains and stabling. Of course, you can write to the government saying, please pay the full amount because we have a budget hole. You can send that letter anytime you want. But I think that the reason for this amendment, I can understand the frustration of people, but you have works that are taking place to complete that project. And I think that we should simply endorse it. And if we have a concern with the government, then that needs to be addressed through our response to the draft GPS. I would hope, Chair, that we won't agree this amendment and that we can mandate Auckland Transport to complete what has already been an agreed priority, including the funding of it through the regional fuel tax, which we do have the ability to do.
Thank you, Councillor Newman. Councillor Turner?
Thank you. I pulled my hand down. My question's been answered. Thank you.
Councillor Darby?
Thanks, Chair. Look, I've thought about this amendment and I will support it. And I've got some good conditions there as well, but it is with some wry amusement that suddenly the government has fallen in love with the Eastern Busway. As Planning Committee Chair for 6 years, I sat on the working party for the Eastern Busway with Auckland Transport staff, and I never ever heard of a local representative from that part of our city being the fierce champion for that, other than Councillor Paul Young. Paul Young and the local board were consistent. But I never heard it from the MPs, and I never heard it from the councillors representing that area, other than Paul Young. And now we have a government that's fallen in love with it. That's fantastic, because it is a really important project for Auckland. And Mayor, I know you were being a bit provocative before, and good on you. And you have to be sometimes to draw out the real truth and the history. Who has actually championed this project? The champion of this project has been this council and all the councillors around this table who wear their regional hat, not just a parochial hat. And this is a really important project to get Auckland moving. The East is totally poverty-stricken when it comes to public transport. And Councillor Morris Williamson identifies that, but comes to the conclusion that people will want to drive more. People in the East do not want to drive more. They want to take public transport. They want to find that other mode to get them out of congestion on the Pakuranga Highway. I've only heard at the various working parties that I've been to is championing for the Reeves Road flyover and the widening of the Reeves Road flyover. And why do we need priority lanes for buses on Pakuranga? We need more vehicle lanes on Pakuranga Highway. That's what I've heard from the elected members there. But all that aside, I know that those communities are out of sync with their representatives, or the MPs are out of sync with the communities. It's more the latter, isn't it? And we should push ahead strongly. This is a priority regional project. And I don't have any sort of counter view to the priority that the government are giving to this in the legislation that's now been given assent and allocation of 210. But I will support the seeking of their full funding of stages 2 and 3. As I've sought of the previous government, and you'll recall that I've always said that the rapid transit network, which mirrors the state highway network in moving people, should be funded out of central government at 100%. What it also does is it gives some hint of possibility for, and I'll put my parochial hat on here, projects like Glenvar Road and Lake Road. For the third time, I thought I had Glenvar, and working with Councillor Hills, we thought we had it back in the budget. It's pretty much evaporated again. And to hear in the House people waxing on lyrically about Glenvar and Lake being back in the mix, it is just political, empty packaging. There is so little possibility now, in the absence of an regional fuel tax, that Glenvar and Smales Allen upgrades and the Lake Road upgrade and the Rural Road resealing will see a shekel come their way. So remote, because we have to focus on those committed projects and the very high-level strategic projects like the Eastern Busway. We have to complete those projects. And Mayor, I know you will too, and I know all the councillors who have been part of shepherding the Eastern Busway to where it is today. As an Auckland Council, Auckland Transport project, will see it through. But I think we need to knock on the door at government and say, these are the consequences of your decision on the regional fuel tax. More people will die and be seriously injured. Fewer people will be taking public transport. There will be endless congestion, and the list goes on. The implications of the removal of the regional fuel tax are just a grind to get to work for that many more years. That's what the consequences of removing that regional fuel tax are.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Darby. Councillor Fletcher.
Well, this is certainly an interesting discussion, and I want to applaud you as the chair for accepting this amendment, even though it was suggested that somehow some precedent was being established in seeking officer understanding of what the implications might be. Because I remember spending many a time in this committee or its predecessors in trying to bring advocacy for seeking funding from central government for the OPEX around the CRL. I mean, I could go through a whole list of things, and I've had them all ruled out of order. So I was really inspired by your graciousness in accepting this amendment today, having myself been ruled out of order on many occasions. I think it's unfortunate that we know that there's politics happening in Wellington, but unfortunately it's flowing over into this chamber at a time that I think we need to be all working together. I'm sorry that Councillor Lee's not just here at the moment, because we were those champions on the original board of Auckland Transport to try and see the land acquisitions, the notice of requirement, and all of the work. The fact is, the Eastern Busway is a fantastic project. We all support it. I just don't want to see it being politicised in the way it is, because some are frustrated over the regional fuel tax. So thank you, Chair, for enabling this debate to take place. And while we're seeking more funds from central government, maybe we'll add a whole lot of others to the list. But I don't want to see the project being jeopardised because it's too precious. And so I moved the original motions because I felt that was the best way to succeed, and I want to stick to the original motion.
Thank you, Councillor Fletcher. If there's no one else speak. Oh, Councillor Bartley, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. I'm the same, I'm just like, the Eastern Busway is needed. I don't want to see it jeopardised because we're trying to send a political message to the government who cut the regional fuel tax. I'm looking at what Dean said to us, and he was very clear to go with D, that we, prioritise, we endorse Eastern Busway and the electric trains. So I don't know where I'm at on this, because I can also respect the position that the councillors are trying to take here with sending this message to the government, that it isn't about risking the Eastern Busway, it's about the other projects that we can't get done because they cut the RFT. So I'm really not sure where I'm at on this. Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Filipina.
Thank you, Chair, and Again, my humble apologies for not putting on the camera, but yeah, no, I'll just leave it at that. Everybody knows what I look like. Chair, firstly, yes, thank you for accepting the amendment, and also to Councillor Ferry for putting it up. Chair, as you would know, as one of the longest, along with Sharon Stewart, Councillor Stewart, around this, we've been sort of pushing Amity Eastern Busway for years in the Manukau days. So I just wanted to sort of, I'm not going to repeat what everybody has said, but I think from my perspective, this is the right way to go with this amendment, and I will be supporting it. But thank you, Chair, for allowing that to go through. Kia ora.
Thank you, Councillor Filipaina. Mayor Brown?
Just quick, as the person who will have to do the asking, I'm very unsure where I sit on this one here, so I'll probably just not vote on this amendment and go with whatever you guys decide that I've got to do.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Brown. I'll just make a couple of brief comments myself in conclusion then. I guess while I certainly appreciate the sentiment of the amendment here, and particularly as it goes to asking the government to be a little bit more generous in its funding of this major project that, as a number of councillors have quite rightly pointed out, been on the go for many, many years and have, has slowly but steadily wound its way through various stages of construction. I think that's what is going to be required here to the regional fuel tax as a whole, is a far more cohesive response than just perhaps zeroing in on this one project. If what Councillor Darby is saying is correct, then that same will have to apply for other projects that are on that RFT list. He referred to Lake Road and Glenvar Road, and I certainly know that as far as Glenvar Road goes, there was quite a significant input of the local MP into advocating for that road, along with the local board, people like Julia Parfitt and indeed the two Albany Ward councillors. So it has quite a backdrop, and I suppose with some of the other corridor road projects there, if we're going to go back to the government, then let's do so when AT have done their work and where we see where some of these other projects sit, rather than just picking one, albeit a very important one. I guess the other point I would make in more general political terms is that the government did make the repealing of the regional fuel tax one of the centrepieces of their election campaign. So I don't think anyone can throw their hands up in surprise at this very late stage in proceedings, given what they signalled in the election and given their rather overwhelming performance in Auckland as a whole. And there's a lot happening at the moment, and I guess, I'm pretty aware of how these processes have played out in previous years with other governments, where, we have just had to accept the reality of what a change of administration means and what projects go or policies go along with that. I certainly know in the last term of council, I had a project to my own ward where, despite very strong advice from the Ministry of Transport officials, the government of the day undertook to introduce polling when the whole proposal they'd advanced failed on 3 of the 4 statutory tests, and when the Ministry of Transport said that this particular tolling proposal would reduce safety and increase vehicle operation costs. So they were completely black and white. Now, that certainly didn't please my community or myself, but that was the government. They made the decision. So there is an element of that in there. But I think more than anything, as far as this particular amendment goes, we have had the the recommendations put up that were a consequence of a degree of collaboration between Auckland Transport and our offices to find the right wording to address this specific report. And as I said, while I quite understand and agree with the sentiment, I think that can be more fully and more appropriately addressed when the information comes back from Auckland Transport to the implications for a number of the other projects on the list as well. Thank you. So Councillor Dalton has called for a division on this. So the amendment is up there before you, so I'll leave it to Sonia and Lata to conduct the vote then.
Councillor Bartley. Okay, I'll support it. Member Brown? Yes. Yeah. Mayor Brown? Abstain. Councillor Dalton?
For.
Councillor Darby?
4.
Councillor Ferry?
For.
Councillor Filipina?
Aye.
Councillor Fletcher?
No.
Councillor Foley?
For.
Councillor Henderson?
Support.
Councillor Hills?
In favour, thank you.
Councillor Leone? Councillor Newman?
No.
For.
That was for Councillor Leone? Councillor Newman?
No.
No.
Yes. For.
So that's yes for Councillor Leone and no for Councillor Newman. Member Renata? Aye. Councillor Sayers?
Abstain.
Councillor Stewart?
No.
Councillor Turnham?
Against.
Councillor Walker? Councillor Walker? Councillor Walker?
Abstain.
Councillor Williamson?
No.
And Chair?
No. So the amendment is passed
11 to 16.
by
11 to 16.
by 11 to 6 with 3 abstentions. So that replaces D then in the original recommendations. So we go to the back to the substantive now. It's been moved and seconded. I think we've had a good debate of this one. All those in favour? Aye. Against?
Aye.
Carried. Okay, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. And on that note, we'll break for lunch now and come back at 1:20. Thanks.
Kia ora, Chair. Thank you.